The pineal gland, its structure, location, function, and blood supply. So we're back with our medial view / sagittal section of our brain, where we can see the pineal gland, which is our topic of discussion for today, highlighted in green. So the pineal gland, also known as the epiphysis cerebri or pineal body, is a small cone-shaped structure measuring approximately 5 to 8 millimeters long. It is located in the diencephalic part of the forebrain, or prosencephalon, above the quadrigeminal plate, just here. And let's remind ourselves that the prosencephalon contains the thalamus and the hypothalamus, amongst other things. The pineal gland, shown in a posterior view, rests between the posterior aspects of the thalami here and projects posteriorly from the wall of the third ventricle, just here. The pineal stalk of the pineal gland has a superior lamina and an inferior lamina. And zooming in a little to our pineal gland, we can see the habenula commissure and the habenula trigone, which are both part of the superior lamina. Now, the habenula commissure and the habenula trigone both connect the pineal body to both cerebral hemispheres, and they do so superiorly. The posterior commissure, which is part of the inferior lamina, connects the pineal body to both cerebral hemispheres inferiorly. And remember, lamina means plate, so if it helps you, you can imagine these little sheets connecting the pineal gland to the cerebrum. So in this image, we're looking at a really cool X-ray vision of the ventricles, and we have our lateral ventricles over here and our fourth ventricle over here. And between the two laminae of the pineal stalk is a space known as the pineal recess. And the pineal recess communicates anteriorly with the third ventricle in green and the hypothalamic sulcus, which lies in the lateral wall of the third ventricle. The pineal gland is an endocrine gland that functions to produce the hormone melatonin, a hormone that affects the state of wakefulness and sleep, as well as photoperiodic or seasonal functions. The pineal gland is also believed to have a reproductive function associated with the onset of puberty, and it's believed that it inhibits the maturation of genitals until puberty. And it might be interesting to note that the pineal gland, unlike the rest of the brain, is not isolated from the body by the blood-brain barrier. Oxygenated blood to the pineal gland is provided via fine branches of the posterior choroidal arteries, which are derived from the posterior cerebral artery, which we can see here in green. And here, let's just point out the posterior cerebral artery coming off the basilar artery. The internal cerebral veins drain deoxygenated blood from the pineal gland, joining with the basal vein of Rosenthal and the posterior mesencephalic vein to form the great cerebral vein of Galen, which we can see here in green, and which in turn drains to the straight sinus.
Facts about pineal gland. Pineal gland is an endocrine gland, about the size of a pea, situated approximately in the center of the brain. In animals, the pineal gland tends to be located closer to the surface of the brain, but over the course of evolution it migrated inwards. It appeared to be the only unpaired brain structure. Later analysis proved this to be untrue. The pineal gland was the last endocrine gland to have its function unveiled. In 1958, Dr. Aaron Lerner reported that pineal glands secrete melatonin. The pineal gland is essentially part of the visual system. It responds indirectly to light. It receives messages along nerve fibers from cells of the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus, which themselves receive signals from the IVF fibers of the optic nerve. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is the body's major rhythm-generating center and heart of the body clock. The full action of melatonin is seen in animals and birds. The melatonin is responsible for various aspects of sexual development, animal hibernation, metabolism, and seasonal breeding. In lower vertebrates, the pineal gland is itself a clock and its cells respond directly to light. The pineal gland secretes the darkness hormone melatonin normally at night. The gland secretes its hormone in sync with circadian rhythms, releasing more in the dark and less in the light. This signal is used to regulate the timing of biological rhythms. Melatonin minimizes sexual thoughts while sleeping. In children, the pineal gland secretes more melatonin than in adults, which is said to inhibit sexual development. After puberty, the pineal gland shrinks and releases less melatonin, augmenting the sexual desire.
The pineal gland. The pineal gland is a tiny pine cone-shaped endocrine gland about the size of a grain of rice, tucked in a small groove where the two halves of the thalamus join. Aside from regulating sleep and wakefulness through melatonin production, the pineal gland, also known as the third eye, has been referred to the principal seat of the soul and is a common focus of spirituality and mysticism. Could this mysterious structure be the home to a sixth human sense, a transcendent power referred to in every major civilization since the dawn of recorded history? For thousands of years, the pineal gland has been a great mystery, an emblem of higher consciousness. It was only very recently that we discovered a molecular basis for these notions. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan discovered something incredible being produced in the pineal gland of live rats, DMT, the most powerful psychotropic molecule known to man. This game-changing discovery was predicted decades earlier by clinical psychiatrist and psychedelic researcher Dr. Rick Strassman, author of DMT, the spirit molecule. DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is a psychedelic compound occurring naturally in over 200 plants, also produced endogenously in the brain, said to peak in humans during REM sleep and right before the moment of death. Researchers link DMT to out-of-body experiences, time-space distortion, birth, and other instances of mystical perception. DMT has been shown in several scientific studies to have a profound effect on consciousness. Discovering the pineal gland to be a producer of DMT has rooted the enigmatic myth of this structure being a gateway to expanded consciousness to a molecular, physiological basis. Even before the pineal gland was proven to produce DMT, its regulatory functions of wakefulness via melatonin secretion have connected the gland to meditation and trance states. Meditative states are correlated with a sharp increase in melatonin. A melatonin influx lets the brain know it's time for sleep. Naturally triggered by the onset of darkness, increased melatonin during meditative states lets the brain know to slow down, allowing the mind to drop from the highly attentive waking brainwave states of beta frequencies into the calm, intuitive dreaminess of alpha and theta states. It's easier to meditate in the morning or late at night because the pineal gland has already begun producing the melatonin necessary for the brain to slow down and drop into a more relaxed and expansive state of consciousness. By regulating melatonin, the pineal gland is regulating the frequency of brain waves, shamaning their corresponding spectrums of awareness. Between controlling the production of the powerful psychedelic DMT and regulating wakefulness and the frequency of brain waves with melatonin, it's clear that ancient civilizations and countless mystics were onto something when they linked this tiny pine cone-shaped enigma with enlightenment and seat of the self.
The pineal gland was one of the last parts of the human brain to be understood by neuroscientists. With the Latin word pinea, which means pine cone, it was first described by the Greek philosopher Galen as glandula pinealis. Later, René Descartes described it as a unique meeting point between body and soul, where all thoughts are formed. It's also known as the third eye, due to the pathway between our two eyes, and it contains physical visual processing cells. But its main function is known as an endocrine gland, to release the sleep hormone melatonin. In darkness, the pineal gland converts the neurotransmitter serotonin to melatonin to control the circadian rhythm of the body. Melatonin is known to control healthy sleep cycles and reduce anxiety and depression. But now it's also been found to affect weight gain, fertility, and even tumor suppression. It's even a global antioxidant, released from the digestive system for its anti-inflammatory purposes. Previously, researchers thought the hypothalamus was the conductor of the endocrine system. Today, we know the pineal gland sits above the hypothalamus and signals the pituitary gland to release all of our daytime hormones. But the pineal gland also uses another molecule called dimethyltryptamine. DMT is like serotonin, but it uniquely crosses the special blood-brain barrier that gives it access to the pineal gland. Trials have shown that DMT given to patients can alter their state of consciousness in a similar way. Ancient ceremonies like yoga, meditation, and mindfulness focus on activating the pineal gland in humans.
My interest in explaining this mystical science of the pineal gland is really thinking of the pineal gland as the brain's radio receiver. And it can only be activated through a certain process. When this latent system switches on, the arousal that's created is energy moving from the body right up into the brain. And that energy rushes all the way up into the pineal gland. The moment that happens, the brain goes into what's called gamma brainwave patterns. They're having a full-on sensory experience without their senses. And whatever's going on between their ears, the vision that they're having, they're not visualizing. It's happening to them. And the person now is literally in a whole nother world. They're in another dimension. That's why the pineal gland is called the third eye, because it's a profound vision. Once the autonomic nervous system switches on and it goes into gamma brainwave patterns, that radio receiver has tiny little calcite crystals, stacked rhombohedrons that are on top of each other. And those crystals begin to shimmer. They begin to oscillate. And now the radio receiver is activated. And when the brain latches on to a frequency, the pineal gland acts as a transducer. And the pineal gland begins to release upgraded versions of melatonin. Melatonin already causes us to dream, but now you're going to really dream. It already causes us to relax, but now you're going to make a benzodiazepine. You are going to chill way out. You are no longer going to be in survival. Melatonin's already an antioxidant, but you're going to make two of the most powerful antioxidants known to man. Anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. And then you make that one amazing chemical called dimethyltryptamine. And that begins to switch on. And what happens is you no longer move through space to experience time. You move through times. And you experience dimensions or spaces. And the biggest lie that we've ever been told is that we're linear beings living a linear life. We are dimensional beings living a dimensional life. And when the doors of dimension open to you, and you get a glimpse of how big this really is, you are going to care less about politics. You're going to care less about who's famous and who isn't, because you're going to realize you're all of that and more. We have people that have switched this system, this latent system on, and they have a greater understanding of who they really are.
The third eye, also known as the pineal gland, is the gateway to deeper spiritual connection and heightened intuition. The word pineal comes from the Latin word pinea, which means pine cone. The pineal gland is approximately the size of a pea, shaped similar to a pine cone, and located directly in the midline of the brain. This small endocrine gland helps produce the hormones necessary to manage your waking and sleeping patterns, namely melatonin. Its major function is to regulate the body's internal clock. The pineal gland is referred to as the third eye because it is quite literally a third eye you have within your brain. It contains light-sensitive nerve endings, non-visual photoreceptors which react to light, a cornea, and a retina. For centuries, mystics have considered this third eye to be connected to deeper intuition and clarity as a lens that can see beyond physical reality, and its significance appears in every ancient culture throughout the world. It is said that when the third eye is closed, an individual might experience overthinking, lack of purpose, pessimism, and an inability to connect deeply with the higher self. To have the third eye open means to have the ability to move beyond the five senses and tap into otherworldly information that might otherwise be hidden. The body interprets the physical experience, whereas the third eye can be used to tune into other planes of existence with more information, resources, and deeper intuitive insights. We all have intuition and can exercise that muscle in order to use it in a more practiced way. According to the National Library of Medicine, a government website, in an article they published outlining a study to measure future unknown events, they state, "Intuition in this context is considered as a process by which information normally outside the range of conscious awareness is detected at the cellular level by the heart, the brain, and the autonomic nervous system. This study extends the findings of previous experiments demonstrating that aspects of our physiology can respond to an emotionally engaging stimulus before it's actually experienced. During this experiment, data was collected based on intuitive responses." The article states, "Although not yet well understood, intuition is a familiar facet of experience that can be a powerful transforming mediator that can inform and potentially redirect the path of an individual's life. Intuitive perception is commonly acknowledged to play an important role in business decisions and entrepreneurship, learning, creativity, medical diagnosis, healing, spiritual growth, and overall well-being." And the article goes further to read, "We believe that intuitive perception involves the heart, brain, and nervous system's connection to a field of information beyond normal conscious awareness, and that it has been suggested that the capacity to receive and process information about non-local events appears to be a property of all physical and biological organization and is likely due to the inherent interconnectedness of everything in the universe." I will leave a link to the full article in the description of this video if you would like to read it in full. Often referred to as the seat of the soul, where the mind, body, and spirit meet, the third eye has great transformational properties. Through opening the third eye, we have the ability to connect with our extrasensory perceptions and the enrichment those perceptions can offer us in our physical lives. It's also been said that the illusion of the separation between the self and the spirit melts away when the third eye is consciously connected to, developed, and refined, allowing us to do such things as astral project, jump realities, and become lucid during our dreams. So why might your third eye be closed if this is one of your natural gifts? There are many theories about this, and you might have heard such terminology as decalcify your pineal gland, or why your pineal gland might be atrophied, or open your third eye. It is possible that the third eye is designed to open naturally when the conditions are appropriate for an individual. However, in modern times, these conditions rarely arise spontaneously. This happens for the same reasons that our subconscious programs can block us from manifesting if we don't address those, and the two are intimately linked. From an early age, most all of us are conditioned to think and behave in specific ways, and often taught a myriad of rules that have the ability to pinch us off from our inner voice and our inner wisdom. The following simple ancient technique will change this by activating your pineal gland. However, pineal gland activation shouldn't be taken lightly. This is a powerful exercise that can produce intense experiences for some individuals. Some traditions caution against esoteric methods of altering your consciousness, and it's advisable to exercise caution and care on this journey. If you feel as though you need to do more research about this prior to engaging in this practice, I recommend stopping this video and doing so now. Although I do recommend using this technique at your own discretion, I will give another exercise to close your third eye as well in the event you find discomfort with this process. Sit in a comfortable and relaxed position. Close your eyes and allow your breath to become deep and slow. Don't force your breath, just observe it. Through detached observation, your breathing will naturally begin to slow down. Once your breathing has slowed in a rhythmic way, rest your attention on the third eye region, just above and between your two eyes. And then imagine you are breathing in a golden, white light through your third eye center. As you do this, A key component in being successful is remaining relaxed and avoiding trying to force this to work. Let go of any expectations that might cause tension and block the flow of energy. You can do this for several minutes per day to exercise your third eye muscle. Although quite simple, this meditative practice is effective because when you place your attention on your third eye in this way, you are focusing your internal energy to this area. This type of relaxed focus releases neuropeptides and nitric oxide, which trigger the relaxation response. In doing so, these chemical signals allow you to move into deeper meditation while stimulating the third eye region. As previously mentioned, melatonin is the main chemical produced and circulated by the pineal gland. Researchers at Taiwan University found through the use of MRI scans that meditation does trigger pineal gland activation. And not surprisingly, in the brains of focused meditators, they find an increase in melatonin secretion. Here's what you can expect during or after performing this process. You'll feel a slight pressure, tingling sensation, or pulsating sensation in the center of your forehead. And it can sometimes feel as though there's a mini heart beating in your forehead. This is a positive indication the third eye is awakening and that the pineal gland is beginning to function in a healthy manner. You may hear sounds coming from within your head that produce light cracking or popping sensations. If you begin to see colors of blue, purple, white, and/or intense white-colored dots, it's highly likely that you've opened your third eye. When you close your eyes just before you go to sleep, you may see various new images in your mind. Sometimes these mental images are vivid and sometimes they're blurred. After this process, such images are often thought to be the lens of your pineal gland picking up on different dimensions. When you're vibrating in a higher frequency, you may also be picking up on higher vibrations. You may also experience any or all of these things to varying degrees. Faster and/or easier learning and retention, a marked increase in intuition, extreme flashes of insight, increased creativity, psychic development of intuitive gifts that become stronger, such as psychic vision or psychic hearing, a more developed ability to see or sense human auras, more overall clarity, a heightened sense of empathy, and the ability to make decisions quickly and effectively. As with all powerful practices, your body may go through some slight discomfort in order to adapt to these qualities that align with higher potential. But not everyone will experience discomfort, and many do not. If you do find the experience of opening your third eye to be one that you no longer prefer, you can close it again. The best and easiest way to do this is by visualizing an invisible eyelid in the middle of your forehead. Then put your finger on the invisible eyelid and softly pull down the eyelid of your third eye to close it. As simple as this sounds, it's quite effective. When opening your third eye, it's advisable that you do so with the intent of evolving and creating a deeper connection to your spiritual self. This is a process to be completed with respect, care, and sacredness as you are summoning a deeper part of you to come forth into your physical existence. As your third eye opens and activates, you begin to perceive your reality differently. You might even wake up to many new realities that were unavailable to you before. If this process has not already begun for you, and you feel the calling, the door to that possibility is open for you now.